Hello, everyone, and hope everyone is having a, good day today. And we have such a busy stretch of severe weather really began yesterday across the plains, but for our area here across the Ohio Valley, the busy stretch begins today, and then tomorrow is our main day here. Tomorrow, I have been sort of slightly concerned the last few days. That hasn't really changed any. Looks to be a potential significant severe weather event possible. So we need to just monitor that the next 24 hours very closely. Pay attention to updates from the National Weather Service and today as well. Today can be a potential significant day across the Great Lakes, Upper Great Lakes here across Wisconsin to northeastern Illinois, northern Indiana, and southwestern Michigan. It's where that enhanced risk today is located at Chicago, Milwaukee, just outside of Minneapolis. Fort Wayne, Indiana is in this risk. This is going to be a tornado um, sort of driven risk for some of that enhanced here, where we have this 10% sort of hatched for Fort Wayne, Chicago, Milwaukee, up through central Wisconsin here. Um, we do have a 30% risk here, really across that enhanced risk with a hatched here across northern Indiana through central Michigan here. And then our hail risk, that entire enhanced risk, and then down through sort of Kentucky, southern southeastern Missouri, where we have that significant hail risk possible. And that's where we have that slight risk as well, and that does extend through central Arkansas up through central Ohio, through western PA here. We do have that slight risk. We also do have a slight risk for sort of central Virginia through northeastern North Carolina as well for that hail and wind threat being the sort of main risks through that area. So we have a busy day, a lot of people under the gun for potential severe weather. Today I'll be sort of talking about northern central Ohio and through central Indiana through sort of central Kentucky. It's like Evansville, Louisville, Indianapolis, Columbus, Cincinnati, sort of Bowling Green, sort of those areas today. So we do have a fairly interesting setup here, especially across the southern section here, from really Indianapolis down south through central Arkansas here. Um, this threat down through here is kind of going to be far different from the threat up north, including Columbus, Cleveland, Detroit, Pittsburgh as well. Completely different sort of threat compared to down here, and I will sort of go into those details here in a second. So, um, and I will be, this is gonna be a pretty long video because I'm going over day one, which is today, and then I'm also gonna go over day two uh, at the end of towards the later part of the video. So I'll probably leave a sort of time in the description if you want to skip to day two. But here's our sort of surface map here, kind of what we're looking at today. Um, what's sort of causing the severe weather, just on a very sort of basic scale here. We do see our main sort of low pressure situated over South Dakota as of about 5 a.m. this morning. This has moved sort of northeast as the day has progressed and will continue to do slowly. This occluded sort of front here where the cold front overlaps that warm front here. Um, that occluded front will move northeast and sort of begin to have a extended arc here um, further south, and as that moves northeast, that will sort of form this sort of bow segment from really Chicago all the way up through Minneapolis, Minnesota. So um, along that occluded front that moves northeast today, that's kind of where those storms will set up today in that enhanced risk. But across our area, um, across central northern Ohio, that risk is going to be later tonight between sort of like a 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. ish, that sort of time frame. Across Indiana, down south to Arkansas, talking about like this evening around 3 to 4 p.m. initiation could potentially start happening. And that's going to be caused by this cold front as that sort of as this warm front progresses northeastward and this cold front progresses uh, eastward, bringing some forcing. We could see some of these storms initiate along that frontal boundary. So I do want to look at sort of our surface observations real quick, and I'm gonna just sort of pay attention to this general area here. Lexington, we have 75, 66. Indianapolis, around 74, 70. Cleveland, 68. So we have a lot of just mid 70s for most of the area here. Some lower 70s maybe across central Ohio, northern Indiana, but really mid 70s, maybe some upper 70s, southern Kentucky, sort of central Illinois. This is 14, so let's sort of compare here. Pretty H triple R doing fairly well here to our surface observations. Could be a little bit warmer, doing a little bit warmer on the sort of central Ohio, central Kentucky side of things, but over Indiana through down through Kentucky, Missouri, Illinois, doing fairly well. H triple R doing fairly well with the temperatures. Let's look at the dew points real quick. We can see really just upper 60s, mid 60s across much of the area here, and that seems to be the case across with the H triple R as well, with those 70s kind of sort of in central Missouri. Let's kind of see if, and yeah, we can see some lower 70s across central Missouri. Maybe not as large as what the H triple R is depicting here, but definitely doing fairly well. Let's look at the NAM here. And we can see the NAM also doing fairly well with the temperatures. Maybe a little warmer by a degree or two in some areas, but doing fairly well. Let's look at the dew points, sort of compare those. The warm sector way too bullish. Yeah, just overall bullish again on the moisture. The NAM 3K has been very bullish, on the moisture and sort of the Cape um, this year for some reason. So let's sort of let's look at our FS model here. Kind of just compare. I have to use sort of. I guess I could actually use this here. And yes, that's much better there. Kind of on more a bit on par with H triple R. Let's look at the dew points real quick. Um, again, this sort of the surface observations has some lower 70s across central Missouri, but it's not this large. A lot of these models have it much of central southern Missouri, but there's still some high 60s, so it's kind of overdoing the dew points. Um, but doing a bit better, yeah, across Indiana, sort of Western Kentucky, across that sort of area there. So we'll probably be using this instead of the NAM. Um, we'll look at the NAM still, but um, the NAM 3K, I should say, but we won't really talk about too much right now. So surface observations are doing fairly well. Models are taking it fairly well, so that is a good sign. Just a little bit overdone on the dew points across central, southern Missouri. So let's I do want to sort of um begin talking here, and I'm going to start with Indiana, sort of southward and through Western Kentucky, southern Illinois, southeastern Missouri, in this sort of general area. And to do that, I'm going to start sort of with our 500 millibar winds here. Sorry about that. The sort of ensemble site I use sort of stopped working, so I will have to be using the I'll use the NAM here, which is sort of one of my go-to models for wind heights here. Um, so we're gonna kind of go over Indiana, sort of southwestward here. We're gonna look at our 500 millibar winds here. This is this morning, and as we go out throughout the afternoon here, um, we can see this negatively tilted sort of trough. You can see um, our gradient here, and we can see our line. If we can draw a straight line through the axis of this trough, it would be sort of northwest to southeast oriented. So we have this negatively tilted trough, and it's going to be sort of progressing east northeastward throughout the day. And about 1 to 4 p.m., we can see a sort of jet streak sort of blossom here south of the base of the trough here. And this is going to be sort of increased by the sort of Pacific jet here, an ejection of moisture within the Pacific jet being brought in, sort of increasing our um, winds here. And look out to our west here, northwest. We have this sort of little shortwave here. We're going to be watching too. This will sort of be introduced in for tomorrow's setup. Um, but yeah, so today, 4 p.m., we can see our left exit region. Our exit region is on this side here. I did not mean to do that. So we have our left exit region sort of on this side of our jet streak here, across central Illinois, northern Illinois, sort of in this general area here. And it's 4 p.m. today, and as we go out through the evening, that exit region sort of goes up through Wisconsin, you know, sort of almost into western Michigan, not quite, but much of Illinois, northern Indiana, and this sort of jet streak here kind of gets situated over that slight risk that droops down sort of into central Arkansas. Um, so our 500 millibar winds are definitely sufficient enough. Um, but that left exit region, especially across sort of central northern Illinois up through southern Wisconsin, might be where I think the greatest maybe tornado threat will be today across Chicago up through north, sort of northwest, in this sort of general area here. So that 500 millibar wind, that does progress northwest or northeastward, excuse me, as the day goes on. Um, let's look at our 850 millibar, our sort of low level jet here. Get an idea what this looks like. And 4 p.m. today here, we can see again that surface low over the Dakotas. We have some nice low level winds across central northern Illinois, across Wisconsin there of 35, sort of 35 knots, 30, 35 knot winds. And as we move on throughout the evening, this significantly increases um, across Wisconsin, northern Illinois, central Indiana, through sort of uh, western Kentucky here, where 30 to 45 knot winds at the 850 millibar level are possible according to the NAM. So our low level winds are definitely in place, but what makes kind of today sort of um, interesting across Indiana through um, Central Arkansas is something called capping or elevated mix layer, sort of trapping. So it's just like it's an area of sort of dry, stable air, and it sort of traps that warm, unstable air, moist, unstable air at the surface. And then you have to have some type of forcing to force those air parcels past that stable air. And if that does happen, you can often get significant storms, large hail, supercells, tornadoes, damaging winds. You get the whole 9 yards if it does break the cap. And that's sort of key for today across Indiana and southward, is if that cap can break, we can have a few storms take advantage of that environment and really sort of blossom and produce some significant hail, I think, especially. Um, and I think if any storm does break the cap, that is something that's probably going to be the main risk is that large hail. So let's look at our dew points throughout the day here. And this is about 2 p.m. today. This HRR model again did fairly well with the dew points. And we have the mid upper 60s really across much of central Indiana, across the area, some low 70s creeping in. As we move on throughout the day, by about 7 p.m. here, and we can see low 70s really across from central Indiana all the way down to central Arkansas. Mid 60s, upper 60s across northern Ohio, central Ohio. This is kind of when I'll be looking at Ohio's threat around 7, 8 p.m. Just kind of look at what the models are saying. And, upper 60s across that area. So we go on throughout the night here, about midnight. Again, upper 60s, really across everywhere in this massive warm sector. So we have enough moisture. We have clearly our dew points are going to be good according to that model there. Let's look at the RRFS here. 2 p.m. here. Again, we have a nice sort of nice warm sector across central Illinois, Indiana down south here, where low 70s possible. But mid 60s across central Indiana and Ohio and Kentucky. As we move on throughout the day here, across the evening, 7 p.m. And again, sort of the same idea. That warm sector, low 70s across much of the area possible, including northern Ohio. So dew points looking good. We have enough moisture. We have we have great sort of 500 millibar winds or 850 millibar winds are sufficient enough. So let's sort of look at our reflectivity now and look at some soundings, sort of see what our environment looks like here. So again, HRR, and this is about 1 p.m. right here, and nothing much going on. Some sort of convective activity across Arkansas, but nothing much going on here in terms of severe weather. Um, by about 3 p.m., we can see that convection across sort of Arkansas begin to take advantage of some of that environment. Um, and as we move on across the evening here, we can see some maybe discrete cells, semi-discrete cells sort of pop up across southern Illinois, central Arkansas, according to this run of the HRRR. And as we go on through the evening, we can see sort of further north across Chicago, where I think that greater tornado and large hail risk is. We can see those storms really blossom across there. And we can look at a sounding in the Chicago region here, one that's not contaminated. And we can see here, yeah, we have a nice, some nice cape, nice mixed layer cape. We do have some sort of forcing that probably would need to take place at the surface. 93 degrees to 62 dew point. It's definitely it's a pretty hot or pretty yeah, pretty hot temperature. Nice difference there. So definitely need something to sort of you need enough force to sort of something with enough force to sort of break that sort of difference there. And I think with that included front being maybe just far south enough to sort of force that convection to form. Chicago should be on the lookout here, and we do have some turning in our winds. Not amazing, not not great. Our yeah, I mean we can see our surface to 1 kilometer shear, not great at all. Our SRH, storm relative helicities, are not just they're not at the levels needed. We kind of want that number to be sort of near 150 or above. Um, so again, this looks like a really mainly a health threat here. And we can see this in our lapse rates here. Our 850 to 500 millibar lapse rate, 7.9, impressive. Our surface to 3 kilometer lapse rate, 9.4, very impressive. So again, I think more of a large health threat, but that tornado threat does exist sort of in that area, I think the greatest. So as we move on sort of throughout the evening here, we have our storms and across northern Indiana here. We could see maybe a cell or two sort of pop up across the central Ohio through eastern Kentucky, western West Virginia. Let's kind of get a sounding around here, see what our environment looks like. And again, like we have our cape here. We have good cape. We have we have some pretty good turning in our winds. Our storm relative helicity values are fairly good. Our lapse rates are not as great, but we do have enough turning in our winds. But however, um, we do have a lot of sin, a lot of sort of capping in place, a lot of forcing that needs to take place. So if we do, for some reason, get a storm to initiate around 7 to 10 p.m. across this sort of area here, it may have some quarter-sized tail and maybe 60-mile-per-hour winds, but nothing serious. Maybe a quick spin up, but nothing. I don't think anything to be too worried about. Just sort of stay aware of the radar. But again, our A here model, as it goes out and through the night, our northern Ohio here um, has that potential, and across sort of northern PA there, um, potential for that damaging wind threat here. Sort of get a sounding there across eastern Ohio. Um, again, nice Cape values or shear values are very good here. Blast rate's not great, but we do they are a little bit better here. the 700 to 500 millibar level. We do have some, capping in place, but as that sort of banding moves through, it should be able to take advantage of that environment. Um, so here's our FS model here, and we're gonna kind of see. I cannot take soundings from this, but let's just quickly look at the reflectivity. It does have a sort of convective bias. We'll also look at the DAM 3K. But here's today, and again by about 5 p.m. here, we can see our sort of cells begin to form across northern Illinois. We see that sort of convection across southeastern Missouri as the HRRR. Again, it's a little bit overdone because it has this bias of sort of overdoing updrafts and the reflectivity output here. But by like 8 or 9 p.m., we can see maybe a line of hailmakers across central Illinois through northwestern Indiana. But something to watch here. I think large hail again is your main risk throughout the night, and as we go throughout the night, that severe risk is possible across northern Ohio, PA. We can see that very isolated risk of it, maybe a storm or two across northern Kentucky, central Ohio, but nothing too serious. I do want to sort of quickly look at our cape here, look at our surface-based cape for today. What we're working with is the HRRR here, and this is by 2 p.m. And already by across central Indiana down through central Arkansas, 2,000 to 3,000 joules kilogram cape possible. We can see even 4,500 across St. Louis, central Illinois. It's kind of crazy, but if we move on throughout the day here, about 7 p.m., we can still see 3,500 joules per kilogram really across much of the area here. Um, lots of cape to go around for any storm to take advantage of. If it does break that cap, um, lots of fuel to intake if it does. So um, something to watch for sure. I do want to look at our bulk shear, 0 to 6 kilometers, to give us a better idea of where our better shear may set up here. And this is this evening around sort of 5 p.m. here. And we can see a lot of our main shears across central Indiana, Kentucky through Missouri, northern Arkansas here, where 45 to sort of 55 knot 0 to 6 kilometer winds are at. So we go out through the evening here, where that sort of the storms are starting to form. We see a 50, 55 knot 0 to 6 kilometer bulk shear winds across northern central Indiana, down through western Kentucky, Tennessee as well, eastern Illinois, Missouri, or 60 knot winds possible. So well, we do have enough shear. It's just if it can break that sort of if it can break that sort of cap. And let me sort of show that on the HRR here, sounding here in western sort of Indiana here, and we can see here our we can see our difference here in temperature and dew point. Kind of, it is a little spaced out there, but not bad. But we do see our sort of inversion here, drier air here as that green line sort of goes away from the red. Um, that's sort of where our stable, drier air is at. It's not too bad, too crazy here, but it's definitely evident enough in the soundings here. Let's kind of go um, further south here in Kentucky, maybe get a better sort of. Yeah, this is definitely a better sort of um, idea of a cap here. We have a nice sort of difference here, but we have that inversion here where our temperature gets warmer again as we go up. And as it gets warmer, our dew points are getting cooler, and that's sort of stable air. And we even have some sort of um, capping going on. This is a classic example of capping, where our parcel is cooler than um, the actual air temperature. So that's the kind of issue through this sort of area through that slight risk that was across Indianapolis down to Evansville, Paducah, Kentucky. The capping, if that capping can break, we can see some large hail makers really across Indianapolis southward. Across northern central Ohio, your main risk is really from those storms that initiate by 7 to 10 p.m. Across central and eastern Illinois through here, Chicago down to sort of um, east of Springfield. If those do form, those will move sort of eastward across Fort Wayne and Cleveland and Detroit, maybe as far south as Columbus and Pittsburgh, but um, Detroit, Cleveland, I think especially be heads up, look on the heads up for potential damaging winds tonight. So that's sort of the risk today. If any storm can take advantage of that environment and break through that sort of dry, stable air, we can see large hail, maybe a quick spin up, tornado or two. Not out of the question, but I think the overall risk from really Indianapolis southward to central Arkansas is very isolated. But I think it's a slight risk because just in case that storm does break that sort of inversion in dry, stable air, it's going to have a lot of fuel to work with. It's going to have a nice sort of low and mid-level winds to work with. So it will be a significant sort of supercell if any storm does take advantage. So that's sort of today's outlook. And here's tomorrow's. This is day two. I'm just gonna sort of quickly go over this. Um, but this has the potential to be a very significant day, and I think I need to sort of spend some time before I make a video on it tomorrow morning in more detail. I want to spend some time sort of addressing the significance um, of how tomorrow could be. We'll just have to see how sort of surface observations pan out throughout the morning tomorrow. But um, one thing I do want to look at again, remember when if we look at our 500 millibar winds here at our NAM model, we can remember by this afternoon by 1 p.m. here, we can see our negatively tilted trough, and I remember saying this sort of jet streak is being influenced by the Pacific stream here, energy being pulled from there. And we have a split flow. Remember that from the last video, we have our Pacific polar flow from our Pacific Northwest, and then we have our Pacific flow from the Pacific Ocean off the coast of Mexico. And they're kind of combining out here in the plains for today and tomorrow. But tomorrow, what I want to look at is this sort of shortwave out in the Pacific Northwest. Um, and just kind of watch this sort of energy here as we go out through the day today and this evening. This is tonight, and we can see this energy sort of across Utah and Colorado now. Um, and as we go out through Friday morning, 10 a.m., that energy has now been injected into our low pressure. This is our closed low in over Minnesota, okay? And we have our negatively tilted trough, and it's being injected into our the base of the trough. And Friday by 10 a.m., it's being fully injected according to the NAM. And once it injects in, we see another sort of intensification in our 500 millibar winds at the base of our trough. Once that shortwave injects in, sort of gets settled in, gets gets enhanced, and we have a nice sort of streak here again of 70 to 80 knots across Illinois, Missouri, and even across central Kentucky, where that streak sort of also enhances across there. Mainly from the seems to be more influenced from the Pacific flow. Um, this sort of streak across central Kentucky, and as the day goes on, that short wave across the Pacific Northwest does enhance this sort of flow across Indiana, Illinois for Friday evening. So I think that is going to play a big key into tomorrow's setup and potentially making it even more significant, even more forcing. That's even more winds to work with. We can even see that in the 850 millibar level here. You can even see it some um, sort of as that energy really here. This is Thursday tonight, later tonight, late tonight. We can see that sort of energy begin to form off of Colorado into the panhandle of Oklahoma, and it gets sort of injected in um, into the sort of base of the trough as well. And by Friday evening here, we can see some nice um, low-level winds, 50 to 60 knots according to the NAM. It's just one model, and I gotta take it with a grain of salt, but you can kind of see why I'm sort of that's just one reason why I'm sort of um, concerned for tomorrow. And I think if we look at tomorrow's sort of risk here, our enhanced risk sort of it's a large risk. It involves Cincinnati, Indianapolis, the tri-state region, across West Virginia, Huntington, West Virginia, Louisville, St. Louis, Paducah, Nashville, Tennessee, Jackson, Tennessee, all under this enhanced risk. And then we have this slight risk that goes from Little Rock up through Pittsburgh. So, very large area to watch. And this is a tornado-driven sort of enhanced risk, especially the lower Ohio Valley here across sort of Louisville, Evansville, Cincinnati, Indianapolis. Um, Sort of as that low level jet begins to really set in across the afternoon and early evening, we can see sort of potential for the long-lived supercells, I think, across central Illinois, sort of southeastern Missouri, and then sort of um, spread northeastward across central Indiana. So, sort of in this general area here, I think um, has that best potential for tornadoes. But again, that 5% risk really extends from Charleston, West Virginia, down through Little Rock, Arkansas, up through Columbus, Fort Wayne, Indiana, Springfield, Illinois as well. We have significant wind risk possible. Columbus, Charleston, West Virginia, Cincinnati, Ohio, Nashville, Tennessee, Evansville, Indiana. Um, Potential for damaging winds and 75-mile-per-hour gusts possible in that sort of hatch region we see here. And a bit more uncertainty, central West Virginia, central Ohio, but I do think that enhanced risk does extend a little bit further northeast into Columbus and Charleston, West Virginia. I do think it does maybe extend a little bit northeast, maybe not, if depending on how trends go. We will see. I do think the slight risk does get extended through Pittsburgh, maybe to even Washington, parts of Northern Virginia as well. But um, again, that's sort of our risks here. This is our hail risk. Again, 2-inch hail possible, especially across Evansville, Paducah, St. Louis, northern sort of Arkansas and Tennessee as well. That large hail risk is in place. Again, our trough is sort of negatively tilted at this point, and that's sort of going to promote even more sort of thunderstorm development and more sort of moisture being advected into our low pressure. So I'll have more details on tomorrow on uh, the video in the morning. Did want to sort of go over a little bit of tomorrow's setup here, but I think that sort of shortwave in the Pacific Northwest, combining with that consistent energy flow from our Pacific jet, is really going to make for a potential um, significant weather day across our mid and lower Ohio Valley regions. So stay weather aware. I'll have a more detailed video about tomorrow's setup. But again, Indianapolis sort of southward across northern Arkansas today. Stay on the lookout for any sort of isolated supercell. It will take advantage of the environment and produce some large hail, especially large hail, and then an isolated tornado possible. But just stay on the lookout and hope everyone has a great day. And we'll be back tomorrow. So take care, everyone.